This is the Unstuck movement. This platform is created to help you find the breakthroughs that you need, that you're looking for in your life. I created this platform to bring people on who have incredible stories of breakthrough, to give you the examples that it can be real for you, that it can happen for you, that the perseverance that you're going through right now, the resilience that you have is going to lead to that big breakthrough in your life. I got to thank the sponsor for this show, the Connected Leaders Academy. The CLA has been fundamental and very foundational for the growth in my life and my business. So I got to give all my credit to them just for being a sponsor on here. Jose Escobar has put together a group of hundreds of international leaders who come together to support each other and help each other grow. To find out more information about the Connected Leaders Academy, check out the details in the show notes for this episode. Today, on the episode we have right now for you, I bring amazing guests on who have gone through incredible things in their life. They've come out on the other side. And this guest today is Christa Rose. So Christa is a certified coach practitioner, speaker, and #1 best-selling author based in Ontario, Canada, drawing on her personal experiences, including surviving a head-on collision, the loss of her husband, and battling a chronic illness. Christa empowers others to overcome challenges, inspiring resilience and fostering hope inside of them for a life that they love. Christa, thank you so much for being a part of the Unstuck movement.
Thank you so much, Rob, and thank your sponsors. And I really want to thank your audience for listening to my story. I'm very blessed. Thank you.
It's wonderful to have you here. I find it incredible, the people that come out of the woodwork when you're doing a show like this. You find such inspirational stories, and I can't wait to hear yours. So today we're talking about transforming pain into power. We're going to hear about your story, but I love to ask a question at the beginning. We ask the right questions, we get better answers in our lives. How have you in your life transformed your pain into power? I know that's a big question. Let's break it down. How has that happened for you?
That's a fantastic question. I think it had to do a lot with mindset and a lot of how I've had to specifically change my mindset throughout my life. When I was younger, I overheard my mom talking to, a bunch of people, and my brother was only like 2 months old when she got pregnant for me. And people were like, wow, you had a little baby and you're getting pregnant so soon. And she says, you know what? It's not true that you can get pregnant, when you're nursing. She goes, it's a big mistake. And what did I hear? I'm a mistake. So when you're a mistake, you have to fix yourself. So I really focused on being perfect. I was a people pleaser. I overworked. I overdid everything. I really nailed down school. Right after school, I got a job and was very, very fortunate. Met the man of my dreams. And a year and a half later, I had my son. One thing I did get was a home. And that's something I never experienced, an actual home. And that had nothing to do with the house or the car or where we lived. It was a home, a loving home. And I was so, so blessed. Then one day, it was actually the first day of spring. And in here in Ontario, Canada, Windsor actually, it's usually pretty nice weather, but we ended up with this like massive snowstorm out of nowhere. And I was leaving work and I said, please be careful to the staff because, let me say that again. Please be careful to my team. I watch how I speak. And because I knew about this snowstorm. So as I was driving home, I felt my tires started spinning on ice. And next thing you know, I saw this truck and it's coming closer and closer. And I held on and all I kept thinking was, oh my goodness, my son is not going to have a mother. My husband's not going to have a wife. My friends and family won't have me. I won't be able to take care of my parents. And in those 3 seconds, my whole life could have changed. But I'm here. And that really got me thinking about that's where my power was. I could have looked at that as a way to, give up. And I'm going to be honest, I did spiral down. I started spiraling down into addictions. I didn't realize it at first. I usually could say, well, I'm in a lot of pain. And my doctors were like, yeah, you are in a lot of pain. And would give me more and more, pills. Suddenly I didn't realize my pain was, inside, and I
Mm.
was doing things to numb myself. Um, the more that went on, the more my body got used to it. The more my body got used to it, the more I would wash it down with a glass of wine, because they say it's never, good to keep things bottled up, right? Okay, no, that's a joke. Sorry. So, obviously that didn't end well. So I did go to see a counselor, and kind of lowered my pride and changed my mindset from I can do everything and to I need help. But I went to this counselor, and she was beautiful. She was wonderful. And we started talking, and suddenly she stopped me. I said, Christa, can you wait 1 second? I'm going to take my break, because if I don't take my break right now, the smokers are going to go take their break. And if they take their break, I'm never going to take my break. So here's a book to read. She left, and all I kept thinking was, I'm not worth it. I'm not worth the smoker's break. I'm not worth her break. I'm not worth her time. I'm just not worth it.
Mm.
So as she walked in, I wiped my eyes, like, smiled like a good girl, like I always wanted to do, because I was wanting and yearning for that validation. And she says, are you okay? I said, yeah, it's my whiplash, from my car accident. So she handed me some ice, which did help me kind of ground and, stop kind of the tears. And at the end of it, I smiled and I said, so am I fixed? Am I cured? I'm thinking that one session would do it. And she said, well, no, you're going to have to come back a few times, but you know what? Check with your insurance first. Yeah, I didn't make another appointment. Having said that, I did go back to my doctor, and I was honest with how I was feeling and how I was, abusing my medication.
Mhm.
And he did send me for some help. And thank goodness, because I had the tools to deal with my pain that I had from before, because I didn't know at the time there was going to be more to come. So 1 year, 1 month, and 1 day later, my husband passed away in my arms. And we only knew for 2 weeks that he had an advanced case of leukemia. He was very
Mm.
young, and, he was the healthiest sick man. He, basically had no symptoms. And if I didn't spiral down, and if I didn't have all that pain from before and get that help, I would have never been able to deal with the burden of losing my husband.
Yeah.
I would have spiraled down, and my son would have lost 2 parents. So
Mm.
I took those tools that I learned, which is so important. I had to take any type of anything that I thought was wrong or humiliating, getting help. No. If anybody needs help, go out there and ask. That was really big for me, to ask. So as life went on, I continued to build, a life. And I will say that 7 years later, I was very fortunate, and I did meet my best friend. I did get remarried and have 2 more kids. Having said that, I still had this backdrop that I really never dealt with some of the pain when my husband died. So what did I do? Start doing the same old pattern of overworking, overdoing, overpleasing. Sure, I'll take your shift. Sure, I'll jump when you ask. I'll go at this night, at this time. You need money? Absolutely. Pay me back when you can. And all I was doing was really, like I said, seeking validation.
Mhm.
Slowly, I noticed my body started breaking down. I started out of the blue having these seizures, like literally out of the blue. I would have these hives all over my body, and I started not being able to see. I was losing the ability to walk. I kept falling and getting bruises. I went to every doctor, And I got diagnosed pretty well with absolutely everything. I will say, back when I was 14, I was diagnosed with Lyme disease. So they did blame everything on that. Having said that, this was so far different than anything with Lyme disease. And actually, here, sometimes they don't even, acknowledge Lyme disease as a real disease. They do now. So I was going through this time again where I was losing what I physically can do. And I thought I was only worth what I can do.
Mm.
So when I got that phone call from my work and said, Christa, we held your job for as long as we could, but we're going to have to let you go and, replace you, because they were amazing company. They did hold it for like a year and a half while I was in and out of hospitals and trying to regain my health. But the problem is I felt, my name badge was who I was. And I didn't have that name badge anymore. I couldn't even walk. And I started slipping into like a catatonic state, which is similar to a coma. And I got further and further, and to the point where I end up being intubated. And you can call it the drugs, you can call it a dream, you can call it really whatever you want. You can call it a near-death experience. I don't try to look into it too much. I just know my experience. And without getting into it, all I can say is I experienced the most profound love that I've ever had. And it was at that moment I knew that there was a higher purpose as I refelt the hard bed underneath my body. And I did start breathing again. I started waking up. And when I started coming home, I had to walk with a walker. Now, not that old, but still the shame and what people thought of me was so big and so important in my life. So I had to start to think about, how can I change my mindset and how can I change the way I talk? Because it was so easy to lay in bed and throw the sheets in my head over my head and say, I'm sick. I can't do it. Because that's really how I felt. So one day I realized, you know what? Yes, I'm in pain and I'm in bed, but I can still go sit outside at the table with my family. I may still be in bed. I may still be in pain, but I won't be in bed. I'll be with
Mm.
family. So I did that. I grabbed my walker and I think I put some chapstick on, and they looked at me like, oh my God, like, you look like the bomb. And I'm thinking, what? It was a fact that they saw me. They saw their mother. They saw their wife. It wasn't anything what I thought that I had to, this mask I had. So slowly I started having to shift from what I can't do to what I could do, and even having a reason. For instance, I'm going to start being able to walk again. I'm going to start walking with a cane because I'm using my physiotherapy exercises so I can get stronger, and I will walk again. And then I added the word because I want to dance with my husband at our anniversary.
Mm.
Using those powerful tools really started shifting my mindset and shifting my pain. Then I was able to find ways to inspire others. And literally, it was organically. And I will give, you know, God puts people, places, and things into our lives, I believe, for a reason. And one of the times I was at a dog park. I didn't even want to go. I was in pain, still a little bit unbalanced, and wasn't looking the best. And going around the dog park, I looked and saw this beautiful girl, and she looked at me. She says, Christa, you know what? I didn't even recognize her. She had no hair. Quickly, I realized who it was. It was my friend Jen. And I knew she beat cancer, but I never knew it came back.
Mm.
Sat with her, and she says, oh my goodness, Christa, I know everything you've gone through. They found out I had this very rare disease. It's called anti-GAD 65. People don't look for diseases. A lot of times they just want to deal with the symptoms. I was very fortunate they found out what I had. But she saw my decline and she heard about it through other people. So we're able to sit there and I was able to be vulnerable. And that's so important. I was able to be open to say, you know what? I wasn't always having a good day. At times, I didn't even know if I wanted to get out of bed. And because of that, she was able to openly share and cry and talk and identify with the feelings. We may not have had the same stories, but we had the same feelings of wanting to give up. And then how to find hope and how to work through that pain. And one of the things that we both had in common was we were both people pleasers and definitely perfectionists. So
Yeah.
I taught her a little bit about what hope meant for me. So I use acronyms a lot. So hope can mean heck over pleasing everyone. And as soon as we talked about that, she's like, I know I'm trying to please everybody. And then it brings you to hold on, pain ends. So when I really got to get my head around that, the next day I woke up and I thought that was my purpose. You know, our purpose doesn't have to be something huge, something big, like we save something or somebody. Our purpose could be small. And I really do believe my purpose was that day to be part of her life, to give her hope. And she did send me a message and, did thank me for being vulnerable and how now she had hope and she was planning the future, which before she was not. She wouldn't even look at the future. So, yeah, I was truly, truly blessed. I think gratitude is something else that I learned because something simple as rain. I was driving home from an appointment about 2 hours from here. And when we came home, I mean, my windshield was splattered with bug guts. I mean, it looks like we went through a bug cemetery. I'm not kidding. And we went into the house and I had to get back out. And sure enough, it started raining. I thought, oh, great. I'm going to get soaking wet. It's raining. When I got in the car, my mind shifted and I looked at my windshield and it was clean. So I was grateful for the rain at that point. At first, it was like, oh no, it's raining. And you know what? Something as simple that we take advantage of that we can't even see how we can be grateful for was rain. It washed away my bug guts. And that really got my mind shifting even more about how thankful I was and how much I learned because if it wasn't for my car accident, I wouldn't have learned the value of time. And if it wasn't for my husband passing away, I wouldn't have learned what true love was.
Mm-hmm.
And if it wasn't for me getting sick and spiraling down, I wouldn't have really valued health. So I became extremely grateful for everything I went through. And having that, it helped me propel more and more energy and more positive thinking and future thinking and what I was focusing on. So if you focus on what you can't do, guess what? You'll get more of what you can't do. For me, if I focused more on what I could do, I got more of what I could do. And again, people, place, and things came into my life. And I am, again, so grateful for that and kept helping me get better and better.
Thank you for sharing all of that, Krista. That's really powerful. And I've taken so many notes while you were talking. And we, in our life, my mentor says this to me all the time. There's a blessing in everything depending on how you look at it, right? So you have the bugs on the windshield, the rain, right? That rain becomes a blessing depending on how you look at it. We can always, and you might not see that blessing right away, and you might have to ask yourself, you might have to ask God a million times, like, where's the blessing in this? I'm looking for the blessing in this thing that's happening to me right now. But there is one there, and it's usually, I shouldn't say usually, it's always very profound. It's always a very profound lesson that we need to learn. So I love, through the extremely difficult things that you've gone through, that you've had these amazing breakthroughs in your life. And some people say like everything happens for a reason. I used to believe that. I don't necessarily believe that anymore. What I go to now is God makes everything work for good as long as we persevere and trust that things are going to work for good. So he takes these bad things that happen. He doesn't cause them to happen, right? But he will use them for good things in our life. He'll use them for powerful things in our life. And like, so you went through all those things, you worked through all of these difficulties, all of these tragedies that happened to you. And then you met a woman through your vulnerability of sharing your story. You were able to impact her and help her to grow. And I love hearing that because that is so, it's so meaningful and it's so powerful. So those are some of the things that were coming through to me as you were talking, and you were saying like, hold on, hope, hold on, pain ends, right? That is that perseverance, that faith, the hope, sticking through. Like, I'm going to stick through this thing. The pain's going to end, and when you get out on the other side, now that mess you went through is a message that you can use to help other people with. And you
Yeah.
made a huge impact, and you're still right now making impacts in people's lives. So I needed to get that off my chest because you shared so much right there that I was just like bottled up with like just so much excitement from what you were saying because of the story and the transformation you've had. We got to take a quick break and shout out the Connected Leaders Academy, the sponsor of the podcast. When we come back, though, you mentioned about the power of words. I want to go into the power of words and how we can use words in our life in a better way to have a better outcome. So we're going to dive into that in just 1 minute.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
So this just happened to me the other day. The power. This was just last night, actually. I was talking to a friend, and they were using the words like, "This has been hell. I've been absolutely miserable." Okay, to describe a situation that had been happening to them, and I had to pause them for a second, and I was like, "You know how much worse you're making the situation by saying that it was hell, and the situation definitely wasn't hell. It might not have been ideal, it might not have been perfect, but it was difficult, right?" So I said, what about the word difficult? That's even a better word. I mean, this is a trying situation, and I had a mentor tell me a couple of years ago, listen, when you're going through these difficult things, why don't you say instead of frustrated, fascinated? I'm fascinated by this. This is very interesting what I'm going through, because a difficult situation, if you think about it, right, it really is interesting. It really is fascinating because it's highlighting a part of life that you're not able to deal with quite yet. And that's a fascinating thing if you look at it that way. So I want to hear your thoughts on that. How have you reshaped the way you say things? Because of all of the tragic things that you talked about early in this episode, it seems like you have a very positive outlook. And so you must be using your words differently than you used to. What is that like for you?
Absolutely. So I do actually write a lot of this in my book, and it's definitely not to make a whole lot of money. It's really to inspire other people. And one of the terms for when you're talking about talking is I use the acronym WAIT, and it stands for Why Am I Talking? And if you think about it, when you gather in
Hmm.
a group of people, we all get together, and what do you say? Oh my goodness, who stole my teenager? Some alien, or my mother's driving me crazy, or I'm taking care of so and so, or my boss, or my teacher, or my anybody. What's the best thing we like to do? We like to complain.
Yeah.
We bond over gossiping. You'll never know what so and so does. So one of the things I learned is I stepped back from that. And once I stepped back, I noticed that people were looking at me and wondering, why I wasn't saying anything. And I was really saying the acronym, why am I talking? Think about that for a moment. Why do we talk?
Hmm.
Was I talking because I wanted to be liked? Because I wanted to sound intelligent? Because I wanted to be part of the group? Sometimes our words are so powerful that they can really hurt. For instance, gossiping about someone. You never know what's going on with somebody behind closed doors. So
Mm-hmm.
what you said, someone else may have overheard, and that could totally destroy them.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to back in the beginning when I overheard that I was a mistake. Having said that, my mom does say now I was a loving surprise. um, but yes, the power of those words. So, why am I talking? Take that for a second. So, again, when we say this can't work, you're right, it can't work. But when we say, I can make this happen, I have to find out how to make this happen. And then we have to align our behaviors with that as well. So talking isn't just, doesn't just make us propel forward, it's taking action on what we say. And another big thing is what we don't say. Again, that being in the room with a lot of people all gossiping, if you're in there, people are going to remember you for that little dagger or little thing that you said. And is that really what you want to be left with? I know a lot of times people come home, and even myself, before I used to lay down in bed and think, "Oh my goodness, why did I say that?" So it also leads to another acronym with wait. What am I thinking? So when you put the two together, why am I talking? It causes me to pause to say, what am I thinking?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm thinking something that doesn't work for me, doesn't serve me, doesn't bring me to the highest good, doesn't compliment somebody else or myself, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
not kind, then I have to stop and then I have to shift the way I'm thinking. And when we talk about why am I talking, a lot of it was to how I was talking about myself. I would leave my dishes in the sink, and I would, go out, and I would think, oh my goodness, someone's going to come in my house and think I'm a total slob because I have dishes left in the sink. And what was I saying to myself? I'm a slob. Or, you know, really anything. I can't, walk. I can't do a 5K anymore. People are going to think I'm lazy. People are going to think I'm, not in good shape anymore because, this illness I'm still working through. So all I would say to myself is, you're not worthy. You're not good. You can't even keep up with your friends.
Yeah.
Once I really realized that how I was talking to others, but more importantly, how I was talking to myself, I had to learn to become my own best friend.
Yeah. How to treat yourself right. The things that just the last episode that I had yesterday with Kevin Yates, he said the same exact thing. The stories that we tell ourselves, we would never treat our friends the way we treat ourselves. We wouldn't have any friends left, and if we did, they wouldn't be the kind of people you'd probably want to have friends as. Like, they'd be doormats, right? So it's so true to be able to treat yourself better, and it's so, at least for me, it's so difficult because it's such an unconscious, automatic response that you'll have to things, right? I have a kink in my neck right now, so like every time I turn my head, like my neck hurts, and so I like all day long I'm like upset, like what did I do? Why did I do this thing? Why did I do that thing? I did this wrong. I'm not doing this right. My posture's bad. My neck is, my chin sticking forward too much. You make this stuff up. You tell yourself these stories. And you have to put a stop to it. So I know for me personally, us having this conversation, I need to hear it. So anybody who's watching or listening right now, you need to hear this sort of stuff. We need to hear this to have it stick with us because we all have a running mantra in our head, right? So, and we have to reframe, reshape that mantra. Something that I had asked you before we had gone on the air here, and I like to ask everybody this, a life lesson that's had a big impact on your life. And you said the secret to changing your life is to change your mindset, which is what we've been talking about. From the moment that you wake up to the moment that you go to sleep, everything in between is up to you, right? We're creating our own reality. So how do you help somebody start on that journey of just being aware of that? Holy cow, I'm shaping my whole reality. What's the beginning of that journey for somebody who's struggling in that area right now?
For me, it's being vulnerable and really listening to them. When you listen to them, what is their pain point? And when I get to that pain point, then it's kind of like shining a mirror and saying, but what if everything worked out right? When they're saying, oh, this will never work out. This can't help, but
Yeah.
what if everything worked out right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, when you go to sleep, or when you're in a situation and you right away want to go to, oh my goodness, the sky's falling down. What if everything worked out right? Because, most of the things we worry about never actually even happen. So if we change our mindset to say, what if everything worked out right? What if we can spread more joy and kindness into the world and for ourselves, start treating ourselves better? How would that impact our family, our friends, our loved ones? And what do
Yeah.
we really want to do? What's our goal?
And I'll add to that one of the biggest challenges, especially in situations where you are afraid that you're going to hurt someone or you're going to be hurt yourself, the tendency is to lie. If I lie in the situation, it's going to protect me and the situation's going to work out better because I didn't tell the whole truth. Truth is, if you tell the truth, that is the path to victory. That's the path to everything working out right, because only the truth can lead to things working out the way they should. You're not going to lead things to working out the way they should by lying about something, right? And I'm speaking from experience. This is just something that's been on my mind lately, is like, man, if I told the truth every second of every day about everything to myself and to everybody else, there'd be nothing to hide from. I mean, sure, I'd have to face things and deal with them, but that's a good thing. Instead of hiding them, instead of lying about them and then hiding from them. And I think a lot of times in life, we get caught up in, we're self-delusional, right? We
Yeah.
delude ourselves by telling ourselves a version of a story that's not necessarily true, but it's a version we want to be true. And as we come to the close of this episode, I think that's a great question to ask you. As you went through the car accident, you went through losing your husband, and these really, really difficult things that you went through. Was there a version of that you were lying to yourself about, that you came to a truth about, and did that have a big impact on you?
Absolutely. Rob, I was in denial. I was in complete denial. And again, an acronym. Didn't even know I was lying. And I think most of
I
us
love that.
go
That's
through
so good.
this dream. And I know spelling no is K-N-O-W, but for anybody who's an English major, just let it slide.
Yeah. Right. It doesn't sound like it is, so it's okay.
Didn't even know I was lying. And I was lying mainly to myself. Again, sometimes I was lying to other people, maybe to just make the story a little bit better or to make myself look a little bit better. But really, I wasn't. And when you were talking, all I kept thinking is, wow, Rob, you're becoming so vulnerable. That is exactly what the definition of being vulnerable is telling the truth, being in your authentic self. And yeah, not, basically not lying. Like you said, what if I told the truth all the time? That's really, really being vulnerable. And a lot of times we don't even know we're lying.
So
So
what do you do how do you stop? I always think of George Costanza from Seinfeld. He said, it's not a lie if you believe it, right? So if you believe it's not a lie, then how is it, a lie to you? How do you have the realization that because like you said, the denial acronym, didn't even know I was lying. So what if you don't know you're lying? How do you figure out, oh crap, I've been lying this whole time, I need to knock it off?
yeah, I think sometimes it's feedback from people. So for me, when I first started spiraling down into my addictions, I was in denial. Like I said, I thought I was fine, everything was okay. As I continued on and still was people pleasing and saying I was fine, I was fine. I was in denial. I wasn't fine. It wasn't until, again, I'm going to go back to mindset. It wasn't until I waited and said, what am I thinking? Waited before I would speak. Why am I talking? And the second that I knew what was going to come out of my mouth wasn't going to be the truth, I would hold back. I would take the pause. People don't take the pause anymore. it's almost like we have to fill up time. I don't
Mm.
know why, because we don't want to have this stalemate. We want to maybe have our voices known. So not being in denial is really keeping your mindset to think, why am I saying what I'm saying? What's the bigger reason of why
Yeah.
I'm saying that? And I also believe giving someone, positive feedback of when they speak and when they say, what I hear you saying is, and saying it in a positive way, they kind of looking like, yeah, that is so true. And then it opens them up to realizing that maybe they were in denial or wasn't, quite telling the truth as well.
That's really good. Really good. If you're the self-awareness, taking a step back and like assessing your life, especially if when things are going haywire and you're like, why the heck are things going so haywire? What's going on here? That can be the realization you need. Of then you can like the self-awareness is everything, and having a great peer group around you, right? Having great friends and family who are gonna point out things to you, who are not going to placate to everything that's going on in your life. So that's really important, and it can be really really hard to do, because even then, once, because I've done this, I've self-assessed and been like, well, here's why things are screwed up. It's because of these couple of things that you're doing. And then I'm like, oh crap, now I have to change them.
Yeah.
So I think oftentimes people will, if they have the realization, and that's why people keep themselves so busy. That's why people will distract themselves so much, because they don't want to have the revelation, because the revelation is scary, because the revelation means there's something about you need to change, and that requires work, and that requires vulnerability, and dying to yourself, right? So really
You
good
know
stuff,
what?
Christa. This is, yeah.
You're really one decision away from changing your life. And when you say those words, that kind of stops you in your tracks, because anything that happened before, you can really change it right now.
So true. Good stuff. Really, really good stuff. I love this. This is a great conversation. I really appreciate you coming on here. And I just want to shout you out and show you some love just for being so vulnerable and so open. If people want to talk to you, they can go to ChristaRose.com, CHRISTA Rose.com. Message Christa at gmail.com, or Christa Rose 967 on Facebook. And anything you want to leave the audience with before we sign off?
Yeah, there's this quote I kind of live by, and I actually don't know, so I would say unknown because I don't want to take credit for it. But it's, I rather be remembered for overcoming my tragedies than becoming a victim of them.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much for being a part of the Unstuck movement.
Thank you. It's been a complete honor, and thank you to your audience for allowing me to speak.